Hello everybody, you have tuned in to Eric Jose on Making a Murderer on YouTube. I cover virtually any aspect of making a murderer. I go over the evidence, the documents, the photos. So if you like, stay tuned, and in the future I'll have many more videos besides the one you're about to see. Well, hello everybody. A little bit of bad news. I'm not sure, I don't think it's really bad news ultimately, but the 7th Circuit Court did grant the Banc review of the Brendan Dassey case. So that means there's going to be oral arguments scheduled for Tuesday, September 26th of 2017, where both sides will again present oral arguments, but this time, instead of to just a 3-judge panel, it will be to the entire panel of judges at the 7th Circuit Court. So I still think that this isn't necessarily a bad thing for Brendan. It could be that most of the judges are just wanting to take a real good look at this and make sure that they want that, that this is going to set a precedent, that they want suggestible, juveniles to be treated with special care and not with the kind of care that Brendan received in this case. I believe that at least a fair amount of the judges may feel that way. Like I said, we now have 2 cases now, 2 judges, 2 different courts essentially that have now granted habeas relief for Brendan. And, that's Judge Duffin the first time, and then Judges Rovner and Williams the second time. So, the state is claiming that the Brendan Dassey case, the granting of the writ of habeas corpus, is creating a circuit split where essentially it's a decision that goes against past decisions made by the court. Well, I think Laura Nyrider pretty clearly pointed out that that's not the case, and I'm going to go ahead and show you where she did that now. So, according to Shimmy Shan, of course, finally the appellant argues that the Dassey differs from this circuit's voluntariness rulings in Etherly v. Davis, Carter v. Thompson, and Hardaway v. Young. Both district court and appellate panel easily distinguished those cases. Hardaway sought a per se rule that parental absence renders a juvenile confession involuntary, even in the absence of coercive tactics. So that's different from Brendan because his interview wasn't absent of coercive tactics. In fact, it was crammed full of them. Carter involved a juvenile who, while detained at the station house for 55 hours because she had nowhere else to go, which I did a video about, and she literally did have nowhere else to go. She ended up staying at the station for that reason only, not because the cops were detaining her. And then eventually she similarly confessed impromptu to the apparent with the apparent absence of police pressure. Etherly involved the defendant who was truthfully told only once, that if he confessed, it would go better for him in court. A lone error. This solitary moment of pressure is a far cry from the dozens of false assurances and promises that if Dassey confessed, he would be set free and that everything would be all right. Tactics that combined with a relentless pattern of steering, coaxing, fact-feeding, and cueing, followed by rewarding the correct answer to produce a parroted back confession that raises significant doubts as to its reliability. None of these cases split with Dassey. None warrant rehearing en banc. And I agree with her because those cases are nothing like Dassey. They're nothing like it. So the important thing is that with Etherly and Hardaway, there was only one single solitary thing done to them that was done multiple times to Brendan. So this is the very capable hands that Brendan is in, and they are actually dynamite. They are sharp as could be, and they are taking care of Brendan. And I love it when we get something from Miss Nyrider because she is just very, very good at making her points. I think she's brilliant. Maybe some of the judges voted for the en banc rehearing because they wanted to go ahead and take a look at this and really try to send a message if they really end up thinking, if they end up feeling the way that these other judges have so far, that they may want to go ahead and make this kind of a precedent. And so that could be what may happen here. It could be good for Brendan, for juveniles in that circuit. So I think, the fact that they asked Miss Nyrider to respond to the request for the on-bank hearing, the fact that they even asked her to respond kind of tells me that they wanted to hear from her, because they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to ask her to respond to the state at all. They could have made their choice without that, but they wanted to hear from her. So I think that's interesting, and I think it's significant. I think it means something. So obviously we know that Hamilton feels that it was an okay confession. We know that the other two judges that originally denied Brendan his bond, they probably feel the same way he does, that the confession is, fine and there's no problems with it, even though it's not, applying special care for a very highly suggestible 16-year-old kid, who is being, like I said, with Etherly and Rutledge, only one little thing happened in those. Only one time did they say what they said, or like, for instance, when they said, if you confess, it'll go easier for you in court. That only happened one time. Whereas with Brendan, these assurances were repeated over and over peppered throughout the interrogation, and multiple times. That's the difference. I mean, how is there special care being applied if they're doing this multiple times? This isn't an adult. This is a 16-year-old kid. So that's what's going on here. I think that this on-bank hearing may actually be a chance for Brendan, to make a difference for juveniles who undergo interrogation in the Seventh Circuit. I think it could be huge for that whole entire area, so that kids get a little bit of protection from this kind of behavior. I have done a video regarding the February 27th interview of Brendan / interrogation of Brendan already, and I plan to have another video about the March 1st interrogation this weekend. So if you're interested, be keeping your eye out for that. But yes, if you go back in the videos, you'll see one that talks about the interview on February 27th, and you can check out some of the things in that interview that the judges Rovner and Williams were talking about in their original judgment. That judgment has now been vacated in favor of the on-bank review. Now they will obviously make another judgment when that is done. But remember, these courts are kind of not really keen to go against decisions already made. And when you look at how this case is not like the 3 cases that are being cited by the state, it kind of looks like, yes, this has gone too far, and this is probably going to be getting addressed. So let's hope. So that's about it for this video, folks. I will see you later, and hit subscribe if you haven't already.